Summer in full swing, and the Madaxeman Podcast crew intermittently doing a bit of painting, doing a bit of gaming, but also trying to avoid sunburn and probably bailing out any basements they might have from flash flooding caused by global warming. We've brought you, as threatened, I was going to say as promised, but probably as threatened is better, a special bonus repeat episode, which is really only a bonus if you think repeats are a good thing, of one of our classic episodes of I'm Sorry, I Think You're an Arse, inspired by an ongoing discussion on the ADLG group on Facebook. This is Adam's classic rant from our episode, The Oprah Winfrey of War, in which he takes on and tackles the vexed subject of the greying of the hobby in typical I'm Sorry, I Think You're an Arse style. So sit back, enjoy the I'm Sorry, I Think You're an Arse music, and listen to this classic I'm Sorry, I Think You're an Arse again. Enjoy the podcast. Coming up next on Madaxeman Radio, it's I'm Sorry, I Think You're an Arse, the antidote to informed discussion shows. At the piano this week is Scott Joplin, and your chairman is Sir Humphrey Humphreyson. Hello and welcome everybody to this week's edition of I'm Sorry, I Think You're an Arse. You join us this week from the Grecian Fantasy Theatre in Over in East Cheshire. Just a little to the east sits the town of Peover Heath, and a few miles to the south nestles tranquil Badger Bank. Located in the north of England, visitors who climb to the top of a nearby moor are greeted with a view encompassing 7 different counties. And on a clear day, it's sometimes even possible to catch sight of Leeds off in the distance, despite the many prominent warning signs erected advising against this. So Adam, I think you just want to wade into it.
Okay, so what I want to talk about this week is people that talk about and complain about the greying of the hobby. And that's a really obscure term, but you all know what it means because you've all heard of it. And this is people, and what they mean is they mean several things. Firstly, they mean wargamers are getting older. And by wargamers, I'm talking specifically about historical figure gamers, okay? Wargamers are getting older. This is a bad thing because as we get older, we all do that final journey on our own that we all have to do at some point. And there aren't younger people coming in to sort of like carry on the wargaming traditions. So wargaming will die out. So then they mean, what can we do to stop this, right? I think they're talking nonsense. And the reason why they're talking nonsense is 3 main reasons. Firstly, greying a hobby, wargamers aren't getting older. I'll talk about that in a minute. Secondly, even if they are getting older, that's not a bad thing. It might actually be a good thing, to be perfectly honest, okay? And thirdly, even if it was a bad thing, the people that want to do something about it can't, so they might as well just forget about it, okay? So firstly, greying a hobby, wargamers getting older, and wargaming's dying out. This just isn't true, because when I look about sort of like all the different figures you can buy now, it's like, as I talked last week about all the different so-called scales, there are huge amounts of new war games companies coming all the time, huge amounts of new war games figures, and I'm talking just about historical figures, you know what I mean? The choice is growing. There's lots and lots of more. So if war gamers were literally dying off, there would be less companies, there would be less figures for sale. But wargaming as a hobby seems to be expanding. I don't know the figures, but I can just look at the different ranges, and there's definitely more. So when people complain about the greying of the hobby, what they actually mean is, me and my mates are getting older. And actually, that happens to everyone. So I don't care whether you and your mates are getting older, because so am I. Okay. Second thing, it's a good thing that wargamers are getting older. Young people should not be playing war games. Okay, young people should not be playing historical war games, because you've got to want to play games, you've got to want to paint figures, and you've got to want to do the research and reading, which, to be frank, is like being at school. Okay, this is an old person's hobby. Now, children, I don't mind children playing war games. Okay, Peter, your lads play war games, don't they? And you might take them to. Yeah, and they love it, and you might take them to competitions, and that'll be really good, and it'd be good to see them there. And if my boy and girl, if when they get a bit older, they want to come to competitions or come to shows as well, I would be honoured, and I would be so pleased for them to come. That would be brilliant. However, how old are your children?
14 and 16 at the moment.
14 and 16, right. That's perfect, right? If, however, when they're 20 and 22, they're still playing war games, right? That's a bad thing. If when they're 20 and 22, they get a choice of to do 3 things at the weekend, right? 3 different choices at the weekend when they're 20 and 22. One, come to Bournemouth and do parasurfing with your mates for the weekend. And it's like sort of like surfboard, and you've got that kite parachute thing. And I've seen them down the seafront when I walk down the seafront. They go really fast, and I hope they bump into each other, and they never do, but it looks brilliant, okay? So if your lads had that choice of that to do, fine. Second choice, go to Amsterdam, 48-hour non-stop ecstasy-fueled techno party, or whatever drugs and music kids do today, okay? Now, I'm not saying doing drugs is big and clever, but I'm saying it's possibly quite fun. And looking around the screen, there are some people that probably fill you in with the details, all the sweaty gurning details, okay? We can talk about that off air. That's choice number 2. Or choice number 3, go to some market town in the arse end of Somerset to have a 15 mil feudal ADLG competition for the weekend, right? If they're their 3 choices and they choose...
But Adam, you're talking as though they're mutually exclusive.
No.
You can have
all the
4
same
weekends
weekend.
in a month.
It's all the same weekend.
Come on,
if
Peter.
They
I think if you do go to the arse end of Somerset, that you're not going to play war games in the weekend and then go to an all-night acid house techno rave in the evening. The highlight of your evening.
No, but you can do on the next weekend.
Right, stop.
Can go on the next weekend.
If they choose St Mary's Thrumpington in a scout hall, right, playing toy soldiers, you as a father failed them, okay? There is only one possible reason, one decent excuse for them to go and play ADLG in the arse end of Somerset, and that's because it's their 21st birthday coming up, and they want a car, and they've got to spend some time with a grumpy old tightwad to soften them up so they can get the present they want. I'll take that as an excuse for 20-year-olds to be playing war games. But if anyone in their 20s is in a pub on a Saturday night and they look up and they see themselves sat up a table with us, they really, really need to think about their life choices, okay? Because I am roughly my own age, and even I find me boring, okay? So if you're in your 20s, you should be out there trying to cop off with a large variety of interestingly shaped girls or boys, whatever you want, I don't care. You should be doing anything except sitting in a pub talking about the relative merits of 25 mil plastic warlord versus Victrix ancient Romans, okay?
The bit
wasting
that you're
your
missing,
life.
Adam, right? So have you been over to Birmingham for the Games Expo?
No, I've never been. I've been to Birmingham once, never going again.
Right. So the
Sorry
Birmingham
for
Games
everyone that lives in the
Expo
Midlands.
has like several thousand people and a whole multitude of games. The historical one was tiny.
Yeah, no, don't stop. This is what I mean.
I'm talking. You're listening. You're the one saying that. There was so many different games there.
Sorry, you don't have the authority
and
to
types
say
of games and
bollocks, right? Because this is my rant, and as I said, I'm talking about historical
board games and a whole mix.
Yeah, this is my rant, and I'm talking about historical wargaming. Okay, old people play historical war games, and that's absolutely fine. I don't have a problem with that. Okay, because it's something that older people do. That's fine. Because the third thing is the whole, we want to get younger people involved in historical wargaming. Okay, people sitting around and say, how can we recruit more young people to do historical wargaming? Okay, now, if you're having that conversation, it means you can't. Because you all know wargamers, yeah? Now, think of your average wargamer, okay? Recruiting people into hobby, you've got to sort of like talk to them, enthuse them, and sort of like share your passions, okay? And use social skills. You all know wargamers. Think of your average wargamer and think half of them have got less social skills than that, okay? Yeah. Now, you might say, but Adam, but half of them have got more social skills than that. And that's true, but we are working off a very low base, okay? Because looking around the screen here, there are some people here that when I look at you, I think out of all the war gamers I know,
It was 86,
Just crack
actually.
on.
Yeah, but how old were you in 1985? How old were you in 1985? That's the question.
It's not how old was I, because I'm not a boring old fart sitting there going, oh, I'm worried about the greying on the hobby. I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about all you other ones, okay? So don't worry about the greying of the hobby. The hobby's doing fine, okay? When you say, oh, I'm worried about the greying of the hobby, what you're actually saying is, oh, I'm worried I'm getting old and I've got this existential fear about dying and I just want to talk to young people to give me a sense that life might go on, okay? Now, that's a fear that everyone faces. Wargaming or not.
Adam, no, come on. Isn't that actually a question of, it's not that, it is existential, but it's an existential fear of you won't be able to sell your armies on eBay because there won't be enough people by the time you get into your 80s to pick them up?
Well, it's not so much selling your armies. I think most war gamers I know, as we get older, you do actually worry about what's going to happen to them. And it's like, I've given instructions to Francesca, if I die, just give it all to Tim and he'll sort it out. Don't worry about it. You know what I mean? So I think there is, and you might even get some cash. So there is that, but it's like, yeah, people are worrying about, oh God, it's like, oh, it's great. No, it's just you and it's you and you're getting old and nobody cares about you. It's you do, and your wife might, if you're lucky. And your children might, if you bought them a car for their 21st birthday party, but I don't, and sort of like no one else does. So just forget about it and just have fun playing with your toy soldiers. Right, what's the next subject?
I'm going to chime in here. This topic, greying of the hobby. From what I can make out, having read various threads on forums and so on, people have been talking about the greying of the hobby since I was in nappies.
Yeah.
It's never happened, has it?
It hasn't. And as you say, people who the increasing range of manufacturers and figures that are available. If historical wargaming was dying out, who the hell is buying them? Because companies don't start up unless there's a market for them. And all these companies starting up, selling historical figures, somebody's buying them. And they must be buying more because you've got more companies that existing than ever before. So, yeah, it's
maybe actually almost, maybe this is an issue about, perception. It's kind of, if a 28mm plastic figure falls in the woods, does anybody notice if the spear breaks off or something like that? And if you think the whole world for the last 12 months has been, every single person in the world has been pushed into their own house and locked in, and become much more useful or used to living life on their own, or living life with literally no social contact. So basically the entire population of the country has been being trained in how to be most wargamers. Because again, one of the things that you see is people who go to events or competitions or put on display games or chat to each other on forums, that's the visible, active part of the hobby. That's sort of almost the outreach part of the hobby. But every single, event that you go to or something, you will see stuff. In fact, Heinz Figures and a few other people on eBay basically make all their money by picking up collections of vast numbers of usually dreadfully painted stuff that somebody who has no contact with the outside world whatsoever has decided that they are going to collect at home, the 1-to-1 scale British Army of the Rhine in 27mm from 1982 to 83, and then they're going to pitch that against an Austrian battalion from 1742 in a life-size recreation of something made out of bits of soggy cardboard and then covered in cheap railway flock. And there's these enormous volumes of figures of all obscure nonsense that gets bought by someone, and you never see it. So the whole hobby must be a huge iceberg of people buying weird stuff and then locking it up and never painting it, and then never putting it on table against another person. And that must be so much of it. You remember last year when I was talking about those
that's why sheds were invented, for people to put stuff like that in.
Yeah, exactly. It's all sheds. How many sheds? And the British shed industry has been doing fantastically well during Brexit. I've seen
specially designed to hold miniatures.
Exactly, specially designed to hold miniatures. So the idea
apparently there have been a lot of people playing games. Gaming has become a whole new thing. Mainly board games, I think, for families. But the idea of playing games, rolling dice, and doing that as an evening's entertainment has expanded. So from there, it's probably not a huge step to doing that with miniature figures, whether it's fantasy or historical.
Isn't
like
that
games experts
rights in people returning to scale modelling?
Yeah,
Take Museum had a video a couple of weeks ago, about people's involvement in scale modelling, and they had Chris Barry, Rimmer.
Yeah, and he's young, isn't he? Well, maybe
50s.
Yeah.
So, Adam, I think the key thing that you were saying it's an arse about is more that people are complaining about it. If you can do something about it, then do it. If not, stop complaining about it and just enjoy.
Yeah, and even if you can do something about it, but you can't be arsed, then don't bother. It's it's your hobby. You know what I mean? It's not a gift.
Just embrace
to the
it.
future. Playing with toy soldiers is not some sort of gift to the future. It's you doing something that you enjoy. Okay, so enjoy it.
Live in the moment is what you're saying. Just live in the flow.
Going back to the point I was making, most people, the vast majority of people in this, if you read any forum, there will always be a thread of competition gamers are the devil, and that's a terrible way to play it.
Oh, that's
that's a different rant. But
I've got my tried.
We are people who go out to competitions and interact with other people, whereas most war gamers just literally stay at home in their own shed and possibly interact with 2 or 3 other people at most. So this, mythical new blood coming into the hobby is not going to matter to these people because they've only got 3 people they other game with anyway, or they game on their own, surely. So I think there's even more to it. It doesn't matter because most people do not interact with large numbers of people. And as long as there's more companies and more figures for everybody to buy, which, as Tamsin, you say, there clearly is, what would new people coming into the hobby actually bring? Now, I think, Andy, you said there's a lot of gaming going on, and there are clearly
I heard on the radio or something.
Gaming is becoming more socially acceptable. So that's more people who are part way along the road to potentially becoming.
You're basically calling it a gateway drug.
Yeah. It's a gateway drug. Board games are a gateway
Monopoly
drug.
as a gateway drug. I can see it now.
Yeah,
it was the top out's fault.
Well, even you Doctor Who fans. My wife likes Doctor Who, and you should, if there was a Doctor Who game with some Dalek figures and that, she'd probably think, "Oh, I might have a go at that."
But enough, there is.
Is that because she's got a crush on Peter Capaldi?
I don't want gaming. I don't want historical figure gaming to become popular. Okay, it's like I like the fact.
Hang on, Adam,
no, it's not elitist.
You've had your rant. Shut up.
It's the opposite of being elitist. Okay, it's sort of like it's a bit weird and a bit embarrassing But when people find out, it gives me a little. It's like when I was working in school, I did. It was in primary school, and I did after school club, and I took Wings of Glory down. Okay, and it's like I had all my little like model planes, and all the kids were 10 or 11, and I sort of like slapped their fingers if they picked up by the plane and not by the base. But it's like they loved it. Okay, they loved it, and all the other teachers came along, and they had to look, and they thought, "Oh, that looks quite good, but it's a bit weird." Okay, and that was me. I was the one that had the sort of like the planes that were good, and I was a bit weird, and that's fine. I'm happy with being a bit weird. Okay, it's a weird hobby. The historical figure games are a weird hobby. It's something.
It's also something that if you show by example, your kids may follow, and you might get some pleasure from your kids vicariously, the same way I did for my son once. In that we're members of English Heritage, and they were doing an event once when my son was about 4, called Armies and Invaders of England, and it was down in Hastings Castle. So I was telling Nathan we were going down with another family, and he said, "What's going to be there?" And there's going to be soldiers, like my French and my British. And he says, "Will there be any Prussians?" And the feeling of pride you got from that was you just can't buy that kind of thing.
And he's never played since. That was when he was 4. Yeah.
When he was 4, will there be any Prussians? Yeah. He then kind of lost his way a bit and got into fantasy and Warhammer and stuff. But we still talk to each other, and you still,
despite him being fantasy.
That's very generous of you.
He says nice things about my painting every so often, so I put up with him.
Okay, so look, so coming back to it then, Adam, we've heard a very comprehensive 3-point rant and a dissection of the theory of the issue that the greying of the hobby is a problem. So coming back to your core proposition here, it's the greying of the hobby isn't happening. If it is, it's not a problem. And
if it's a problem, you can't do anything about it anyhow.
So
don't worry about it.
So that's it. So look, let's go around the table here and say, and the answer is either Adam, I think you're an arse, or actually, I agree with you. So Andy, what do you think?
I think I agree with him this week.
Peter?
I agree with him. It's like, if you're not doing something about it, shut up and just play. Have a laugh. If you are, then great. Get the kids playing.
Tamsin?
I agree with him.
You agree with it? David Russell Saunders, in your window?
I have to unfortunately say I thoroughly agree, with a caveat.
Oh.
Caveat. Harrison Pierce is in his 20s, and he's probably one of the best war gamers we've got. So I really hope.
No, but he would still have more fun, sort of like eat out of his head and techno nightclub in Amsterdam, gurning away, wouldn't he?
To say the two aren't
I think he does do that sometimes, actually.
Well,
I can say the two aren't compatible, because I might have done both, and they don't mix. They really don't mix.
Certainly, those weekends we've tried it, they don't mix very well, do they? No.
We all have stories.
Competitions where there may have been, was it a German techno bar in
Koblensk?
Simon, people's wives might be listening. Stop talking.
Yeah, stop
We
talking.
better not talk about Koblensk.
No.
We
don't talk about.
We'd always have Koblensk.
So Simon, what do you think? What's your opinion on Adam?
On Adam or on the topic?
On the topic, on the proposition at question.
I agree with Adam. I think the hobby is grey, but you're just seeing a different, because wargaming is now such a big spectrum, you're not having everyone just playing the one game. So when Peter was talking about the UK Board Games Expo, it was fantastic to see this complete broad spectrum of ages from, little 4-year-olds up to some grumpy old bastard in his 90s. There's so many different games. Yes, one particular thing is aging, because rather than everyone playing DBM, second edition, you've now got the Games Expo. It was great to see, like, there's, 200-300 players playing X-Wing, 200-300 players playing Star Wars, 200-300 players playing something else. Then there was a Yu-Gi-Oh players. Then there was that board games. Then there was everything else. Yes, we were a little bit grayer, but that's fine. It's a natural evolution. You start with something, you start with Warhammer or whatever it is, but over time you get a bit more interested. You play historical or whatever. It's just, yeah.
No, I must admit, I think I'm.
Can I change my opinion, please? Because thinking about it, I think that Adam is an arse for ranting about something we all agree with.
Whoa.
Oh, that's a deep one.
Dangerous, yeah.
Yes, dangerous. But no, I think Simon, your point there is it, you know, I think the hobby is possibly greying, but I think that's because when we were younger and came into it, we were people who liked a bit of military stuff and we liked playing games, and we found ancient wargaming or historical wargaming because that was the only thing that existed that ticked those two boxes. If we'd started now, we probably would have gone, oh bloody hell, there's a Star Wars game where you can fly X-wings. I'll do that instead. So actually, lots more people are finding gaming and tabletop gaming and not getting put off because it's not quite their thing. So the youngsters have got better options than historical wargaming, and it's only the ones who are actually genuinely interested in history are doing it. It's not people who are interested in gaming who are defaulting to historical wargames because it's the only thing that existed or could be found. So actually, I think the hobby, even just to define it as historical wargaming, is nonsense. So sadly, Adam, I think also I do agree with you as well on this one. It's quite remarkable.
I'm just going to point out that Simon and I have both played X-Wing.
I have as well. It's an all right game.
It's a great game.
And I've got Wings of War.
Yep.
And we've got Wings of War as well. On that one, we will call in the theme music and fly off into the distance. Well, as the Andy Joker time hits the tumbleweed sound effect of destiny, that's all we've got time for on this week's edition of I'm Sorry, I Think You're an Arse. We'll be back next week.